What's going on, guys? We're getting started. I'm getting people in. We're going to be talking about the Tom Sewell court case. Yeah. Give me a second. I've got to link some people in. We've got 19 viewers. That's great. Just give me a sec. We've got Jared coming on, and we've got Mehdi coming on, and hopefully a couple other people, maybe. We'll see. But you've probably been watching the shenanigans in the Tom Sewell court case. So we'll see how that pans out. And, yeah, so we're just waiting for Jared to get in. When he gets in, we should be sweet. Here he is now. What's going on, Jazz?
Not much, mate. How are you?
Not bad, mate. Long time no see.
Wow, long time no stream anyway.
Oh, I haven't been doing too many streams, man. What have you been doing?
Yeah. Oh, mate, just looking after the family. Staying busy. Yeah. Trying to stay out of trouble.
Hey, I noticed Sewell looks a bit like you now, mate. He actually kind of looks like you from afar.
I heard, man. I
Someone else said that?
Yeah, I heard he had the beard, the Chad beard, I got told.
But he's got the shaved head, and when you don't have a hat on, it looks exactly like you, almost, I thought.
Doppelganger without tattoos. I think he's much better looking than me, Sewell, so he's lucky there.
He's an attractive cat.
Yeah.
But you're not bad yourself, Jessa.
Yeah, well, thanks, mate. I'll take it.
So what's going on? Did you watch the court case or what?
No. Luckily, you kept me updated, man. The posts you were doing were great. You kept everyone updated all over the world by the same. You know, it was.
Well, it went international. I want to say thanks to the Western chauvinist. He's got me, I think, like 400 or 500 new followers. I haven't been boosting that channel. I'm not really like trying to grow anything, but he's sharing my posts all over the place, and it went up like 500 followers. Telegram.
Yeah.
So. Not too bad, but it was a fucking interesting court case, man. It was pretty crazy. So here we go. We got Mehdi. We'll put Mehdi on. No, right. Mehdi, put down your flag. You fucking put down your flag. He's trying to get me banned, I think, on YouTube.
Well, if you're watching, Brad, check your Telegram.
Mehdi, take down your flag. No. Yeah. Anyway, so the first day of Sewell's court case, I watched it, and for about 3 hours at the start of the court case, they had a secret hearing about evidence, and so we're all in there, yeah. And then during the first 3 hours. Prosecutor kicked everyone out, or the court people kicked everyone out, and then said, we need to have a private court hearing over something. I found out later it was about the operation. So there was a secret operation going on following Sewell and Jacob and the boys at the camping trip. And they were kind of interlinked with the actual incident that they were there for at court. And they didn't want that revealed. So before anyone could view the court case, including journalists, they made it so you couldn't bring it up during the trial. So, all right, we're going to rule that this is irrelevant. Do not bring this up during the trial. And that's why no one knew about it. Yeah, we found out later, like 2 days later. So they eventually let us back in. And where am I getting that now? So they'll let us back in. But then the prosecutors only wanted left-wing journalists in there. They didn't want any supporters of Tom's or Jacob's, because you've got to remember Jacob's on trial too. It's not just Tom. No supporters of them, and no XYZ, because they wrote an article I'll quote the prosecutor that said that Tom Sewell was a hero.
So they specifically asked no XYZ to be in the courtroom.
No, she said, "Oh, can we just allow journalists to be in here and get rid of all the supporters and also a journalist group called the XYZ who wrote an article saying that Tom was like a hero or something. Like, I don't know how that's relevant, what they wrote. Like, journalists write that he's a far-right extremist. What's the difference? Pro or anti?
Yeah.
And they literally said that and shit. That was the first day.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. The amount of, just secrecy they're trying to shroud it with. It's lucky they threw out the suppression order like they tried to do with the Carl Williams mock bell thing,
Well, that's what he brought up. But we'll wait for Mehdi to get on. Yeah, we've got...
How's it going,
Brad
fellas?
What's going on, Brad?
Give you a little salute. Yeah, not much. Just eating dinner. Was surprised to be invited, so thanks for having me on, guys.
No, thanks for coming on, man. Did you watch the case?
No, man, I've been busy like working the whole day, the whole week. So no, actually, pretty in the blue when it comes to knowing what's going on. So yeah, I was hoping to catch up with you guys and get what's going on.
Well, Neil's got the full scoop, man. Neil's going like Neil should get his journalist badge after this effort. It's been fantastic. This has been, has been unbiased, surprisingly. Like Neil,
I wasn't even embellishing anything. I was just like literally saying what happened. Like
that's
a Nazi
Neil
gorilla done a Nazi salute in the courtroom.
Said to me, he goes, usually sometimes I embellish things, but man, I'm just telling the truth now. This is how wild this fucking case is.
What's going on, Mehdi? You got the rundown?
Yeah, can you guys keep talking for a couple of minutes and I'll get into it. I just want to get a few things sorted.
All right, mate. Hey, so Brad, have you had any issues with the Victorian Police recently?
Not recently, mate. Not after the third raid. Just over a month ago, but they've sort of, they've been a bit quiet after that. They've left us alone. We've just recently moved out of Race War HQ, unfortunately. But yeah, no trouble with the Vic Pol, luckily.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, because apparently during the trial, they won't talk about the spy, Dave Ryan. All the questions related to the 60 Minutes spy or undercover agent. You could not ask anything about him, and you could not answer anything about him. He's like you couldn't talk about him at all. Like nothing related to him at all.
How does that even work? Is that even legal?
Well, like I said before, they had 3 hours to in a closed court to discuss what they shouldn't talk about because there's a lot of ASIO shit or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think they made a judgment in the first 3 hours where they couldn't bring up certain aspects. That they weren't interlinked with the incident in itself. But I think it was Tom Sewell's lawyer or Jacobs. I think it was Jacobs, actually, that brought up this Dave Ryan. Like, he was there at the camping trip that weekend. And that is relevant to the case. So if he has any evidence or camera footage or etc., why isn't he allowed? Like, why aren't we allowed to get access to his name or the camera footage? And the magistrate basically said, nah, you can't get it. Like, it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
The magistrate said that.
Yeah, of course, the magistrate said that. But yeah, it's insane. But just to everyone out there, because I don't think a lot of people understand. From what I know of the incident is, were you there? Oh no, I won't even ask that actually.
No comment, officer.
No comment. So the boys, the NSN guys and the EAN guys went away for a weekend. I think it was. Well, planning to go away for a weekend.
Just
camping.
a day. Yeah.
Or the day. Overnighter in the what is it? The Ranges, the
Cathedral Ranges,
Cathedral Ranges. Yeah. And what basically happened? This is what the prosecution alleges, not what I'm saying. But they allege that Tom Sewell, Jacob, and I think 20 other blokes wearing black clothing, Celtic cross on their shirts, was seen by a bunch of what I would describe as left-wing activists at the summit, because I've got to be careful, we can't name the witnesses, but on the summit of the mountain when they were like bushwalking. Then later, it's alleged by the prosecution that this group attacked a car that they were in. They leave out like what led to that. They attacked a car, and that Tom Sewell allegedly broke a window, and a couple of the guys had knives, box cutters. This is what the prosecution are alleging. And then the so-called victims drove their car and crashed into a boulder. And then I think it was dispersed. And Sewell was arrested for armed robbery, and Jacob, I think, also, with another like 14 other kind of related charges. But we'll get into what come out in the case, because it's kind of interesting how what they've alleged happened actually wasn't what actually happened. I think it's kind of a bit of a story play. Did you get that, Mehdi? Did you get the rundown of the first day?
Yeah, so just in interest of full disclosure, I've got about 15 pages of notes, all handwritten. Before I go on, I just want to say hi, Brad. I didn't catch you before. Hope you're well. And Jazz as well. I was going to say, in terms of the notes, just to ensure that we play it safe, I'm going to go a bit slower than usual, just to make sure that people's names aren't mentioned. There is a suppression order. We can't name names, etc. So just bear with me. I'm going to go through not 15 pages of notes. I've condensed them. I've highlighted the best parts that are relevant. But I'm going to make sure that I don't mention any names. So just bear with me. But I'll be very careful with that. So the case started off with the first witness. We'll call him Witness A. And basically, there was a belief that in terms of what that person saw on the day, he felt that in his statement that he could tell that they were neo-Nazis, a bunch of neo-Nazis on the day. So, for example, I'll just read. So he suggested that they were neo-Nazis. He felt like that they were neo-Nazis, and he basically referenced the fact that they were wearing certain shirts. They were all wearing the same sort of shirt, etc. Furthermore, he mentioned that one of the other witnesses probably knows more about this issue, because that particular witness is of a certain religion. I won't say what religion, I'm sure you can imagine what religion that is. People that have been persecuted before by the neo-Nazis, apparently. The point is that there was a suggestion in the statement. At the time, Witness A thought that Witness B could probably confirm who these people are, given his religious background. Moving on, there's also a suggestion that one of the other witnesses was of a certain ethnic background from the Middle East. And there were about 3 or 4 amendments made to the original statement. So this guy, Witness A, made a statement and he amended it 4 times. And the main reasons for those amendments, I think at least 3 out of 4 of them, were because he wanted to protect his friends. So, for example, he included that in the original statement that one of the witnesses was of a certain ethnic background. He removed that. He also mentioned that one of the witnesses was a certain religious background. He removed that. So I won't get into all the amendments, but basically there were 3 or 4 amendments. Most of them were amended because he didn't want to sort of expose his friends. Because from my understanding, when you make a statement, that statement legally has to go to the other side. So obviously,
basically, what I got from that is like, Jared, what did the media describe you as at some point? A criminal, a career criminal,
a petty criminal. Upset my wife the most was the unkept part.
Unkept. Fuck yeah, cunts. They're like school kids writing their little essays, like a bunch of high school chicks. But what I found interesting is, in my experience, because I've received a lot of charges in the past, it's very weird for a witness to change their statement once. It's a big thing in court. Like if a witness changed a statement once or even twice, is pretty odd. Would you agree to that, Jared?
100%. Yeah.
So it's not something that normally happens.
It's not a regular occurrence. It's definitely an outlier. 4 times is almost unheard of.
It's crazy. So when I was listening to this witness claim, and he claimed multiple times that he changed his statement, he changed it once. Oh no, he asked the officer, because his first statement was actually more against Sewell in a sense. I believe what he took out would have been against Sewell or the group. And he asked the officer, "Can I change this?" And the officer said, "No, once the statement's done, that's it. It stays." So he couldn't change it. But then when it helped the prosecution's case, they allowed him to make changes, but they only changed the parts that would have made Tom Sewell's defense better. So they allowed him to change that to kind of. They didn't say that in them words, but you could see the process of the 4 changes. They were all in the favour of the state's case. But then he left something in that was against Sewell, which he didn't take out, but he said under cross-examination he wanted to take it out, but he didn't because it was not important. Is that correct?
I didn't. I don't have that in front of me. I probably missed it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, when he was being cross-examined, so he changed it 4 times. This one witness, and I believe we can say what they said. He said he found it odd that a hate group that targets gay Jews would target a group of gay Jews.
That's later on, bro. I think it's a different.
Is that later on? Is that later on?
Or the same witness later on. But I've got it in front of me, so just let me.
Yeah. Go ahead. Continue, man. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
On that point, there was also I'll mention one of the amendments here. He said originally, "I am worried that they will attack me as retaliation for going to the police." That was removed, and when he was asked by Tom's lawyer why he removed that, he mentioned that I didn't want it to seem very dramatic. That's a direct quote. And he also mentioned that when he was allegedly confronted by the EAM, it was a very chaotic and confusing situation. So very chaotic and confusing. Let's remember that point because that comes up quite a lot, later on as well. In terms of the statement itself, the lawyer made a point. Tom's lawyer made a point. So most of the examination happened from the 2 lawyers that are supporting Tom. He made a point that there were a lot of grammatical errors in the statement. So what do you think of that? Did he write the statement? Is that transcribed by the police, or did he actually write it? I don't know how these things usually go, but when people give a statement, do they actually write it, or does it get transcribed?
No, it's
mistakes. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's usually transcribed. They'll sit down, they'll say it, and then the officers will go over it. So.
Okay. Well, whoever wrote it, probably.
Yeah, I've never made a statement, but I've a few made against me. Yeah, they've never been handwritten.
Fair enough. Well, whoever wrote the statement made a lot of grammatical errors. So whether it was the person, the witness, or the police officer, making a lot of mistakes is unbecoming, and thus, you can imply a lot of things from that, basically. All right, moving on. In terms of the first one is probably the most fleshy. He said the most things, so this is going to take some time. He also said, no idea how many men surrounded the car. So he couldn't put a number on the amount of people that had allegedly surrounded the car. He did mention that they were all wearing black shirts, T-shirts, and a white emblem. Also, when he went back to the summit or somewhere else, he moved on after he initially saw the group of men. Then he spoke to the witness with a certain religious background. And after he spoke to the witness with a certain religious background, he felt a lot more uncomfortable, because I think it's then where they confirmed that the people that they had seen earlier were neo-Nazis. So basically, at the start, he wasn't so concerned at the start, but after he confirmed sort of the nature of the group, their political nature, that's when he became a bit worried.
I think for the viewers, it's kind of hard for them to understand if we're going through every little comment everyone made, but basically it comes down to when the alleged victims seen allegedly Tom, because we don't even know if Tom was there, to be honest, at the mountain ranges before the incident in the car park. There's and it seems to me that they were either there for that, they were there for Tom and whoever was there. If they weren't there for that, they were definitely in the knowledge that Tom and the guys were neo-Nazis, because they went back and Googled them on their phones, and this is what they're getting at the defense when they're cross-examining them. Like, were you scared when you seen them? Oh yeah, I was scared. We were really scared. But then they went to the toilet and relaxed and took videos of them and Googled them and tried to attempt to call a so-called, I don't know, I've never heard of this before, a Nazi hotline. What the fuck is this? There's a Nazi hotline, and everyone knows about this hotline, apparently. And the defense was trying to get it out of him. Like, did you know who these people were, or didn't you? And they were trying to like tightrope it. They're trying to say, oh, we kind of thought they were Nazis, but we didn't know. But then another witness would kind of go a bit further and say, yeah, I knew they were Nazis, or we Googled who they were. Why would you Google who they were? And if you were scared, why wouldn't you just leave if it was like that, yeah?
Yeah. So some witnesses weren't scared at the start. They never became scared. Other witnesses were scared from the get-go. So they differ. In essence, as this progressed, though, there was a point where they were at the car park, which is where this thing allegedly happened, this incident. And that's when one of the witnesses, I won't mention which one, began to videotape. And then something happened after that. I won't say, I'm sure you can imagine what would happen after that, potentially. And then basically, there are claims that windows are smashed, etc. And that's when they started becoming very panicky and very stressed out. And I believe this particular witness used the term hysterical. I kind of laughed at that, the term hysterical, because it's usually used for women who are, overreact to things. So the first witness described the situation, the reaction from the affected parties as a hysterical reaction. In terms of everything else, I'll just go through it. This is important. So all the witnesses mentioned that they couldn't ID anyone at the car park who were allegedly smashing windows. So that's pretty much stock standard for all witnesses. In terms of what happened after the incident, this particular witness was shown a photo board. So from my understanding, a photo board is when you get, I think, 6 to 12 photos of one particular person from different angles, I assume. And they were asked to identify anyone that they could identify from there. And this particular witness couldn't pick anyone out. And it was alleged that they were all wearing balaclavas. Moving on. At some point, the car hit the boulder. So I think the driver hit the boulder. So this particular witness hit the boulder, and they were panicked. And then this is really important as well. So Tom's lawyer asked whether this particular witness had driven into anything else. So the witness I'm talking about was the driver, and he was asked by Tom's lawyer if he recalls driving into anything else. That's an important point to remember because it comes up later as well. Cool.
Yeah, because
there was an implication that basically this guy had driven into Tom's hand. That hasn't been. The lawyer hasn't argued that just yet. I want to make that clear. That's not the line of argumentation just yet. I'm assuming it will come up at the trial, but it was very clear that the implication from the lawyer was that this particular driver had driven into someone, probably Tom, and that's hence why Tom had an injured hand.
Yeah, so the issue is, like, they've charged Tom with armed robbery, and I think have they charged Jacob with armed robbery as well? Has he got the same charge?
He's got the same charge, I believe, yeah. He's a co-defendant.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they got the exact same set of charges or the same main charge, armed robbery. That's a very serious charge, and most people out there would think armed robbery would be someone holding a gun in a bank, going into a bank asking for money. But in this circumstance, they're trying to attribute that to what happened here. And I don't want to rush through what you're going to get into, Mehdi, but I just want to, because you got to kind of put it together. Yeah. And the problem is, here you've got a group of left-wing activists, because I would say they are 100%. They were sent there by the media, by communist activists such as Tom Tanuki, who was brought up in court, who posted the whereabouts where this group allegedly would be. Then these people just happen to be in the same area as them, all while the ASIO, the Australian Federal Police, which is brought up in the court case, and the Victoria Police were setting up roadblocks, or not roadblocks, but police cars on the way to the Rangers. They were scanning. You go on, Joe.
That's the biggest thing right there, bro. The biggest thing, like, from the whole start of the case is what they missed at the start, the 3 hours that were closed. Because Dave Ryan is the fucking reason all this happened. So how did they know? How did the feds know where Tom was going to be? Dave Ryan knew. How did fucking Tom Tanuki know? Dave Ryan knew. There was communication between Dave Ryan and ASIO, and they don't want that to come out. Obviously, 60 Minutes, the police and that were all working together. Yeah. They set all this up. This is all at them. Like, Dave Ryan is the cause of the whole situation. There is no doubt about that. And that's what they've all blocked out of the court case. If that came out, I'm sure the case would be thrown out straight away. Being able to access that information. Obviously, Tom's lawyer would know that, and there's probably no way you can do that. But that's where it stinks from. It's obviously entrapment from the very get-go.
Jazz is absolutely right, and we're going to touch on that, the ASIO connection later on. But yeah, that point made by Jazz is absolutely correct. There was definitely a connection between the mole and ASIO, and that's how they knew that they were.
And Tanuki as well, though. Yeah,
it was a concerted effort. You got the state, yeah. Like, everyone talks about this, like they laugh, like the media, the government, state government. Federal police, ASIO, Victoria Police, they're all in cahoots to shut down, white nationalist groups. And it's right here in front of you. They're
literally
using apparatuses. And it goes right down to, like, some obscure anti-fascist named Tom Tanuki. It goes all the way to him. Like, proper journalists and him put in the location out there. So they're tracking.
Then you have the head of ASIO sitting on 60 Minutes with the reporter discussing the whole thing.
Yeah, who played
Nick
Dave Ryan.
And Nick McKenzie even thanks Slack Bastard and the White Rose Society, known Antifa groups as well, for their assistance in the 60 Minutes episode. So there's obviously that collusion as well that they admitted to on Twitter. He had thanked them on Twitter on a public platform. Yeah.
They're not even hiding the facts. They're obviously hiding it in court. In court, they're using whatever they can to bury the truth. This is the height of corruption. This is the very height of corruption.
Yeah, and what they're using to not release this is it relevant to the incident at hand? And Tom's lawyer tried to explain it is relevant. It's legal jargon, and they just get through it. That's how they get through it. Yeah, they're like, it's not relevant. This was a separate issue. We don't need to talk. But hang on, what if Dave Ryan, it was his idea to go there? Who knows? Yeah. We don't know that.
What if it was he took the trailer? He took the trailer with all the stickers on, the trailer that had been in the bloody media, in the news for like weeks before. So
he was secretly recording everything. He had body cameras on him everywhere. There'd be footage of all the conversations before and what he was privy to after. He was, after the alleged event, he was allegedly there too. So he would have been at the aftermath of that. They would have all that on camera. Why are they hiding this information?
Yeah, and when it comes to the police corruption as well, at the start, this particular witness didn't want to give a statement. So he gave us a statement, but he didn't sign it, obviously. And then at some point he did sign it, because we're here today talking about this. But the point is, there was a point where he didn't want to sign it, didn't feel comfortable signing it. I'll just keep going. He was also asked by the police to donate his DNA. My understanding is that would have helped the police with the investigation. Because the more DNA samples, the more they can determine, come to a conclusion, basically what happened. Initially, he didn't want to do that because he didn't like the idea of giving his DNA, being on a database or something like that. But his lawyer basically tried to reassure him, saying that once you give your DNA, it will be destroyed at some point. I don't recall whether he gave his DNA, but he probably did. But don't hold me on that. I'm not entirely sure about that particular point. But the point to remember is that he was asked for it, and he was also asked to sign a statement, even though he didn't really want to at the start. So the police were trying to sort of compel him to do this. Anyway, also, this is really interesting as well, that we should definitely talk about. in terms of telephone conversations with police, obviously when something like this happens, the informant or whatever, the detective has to sort of be in constant contact with the affected parties, in this case all witnesses, and basically keep them up to date on what's happening. So with arrests, when the court date is, all that sort of stuff. And basically it was communicated to this particular witness that they should sign the statement because there was going to be something going on television. He's obviously referring to the 60 Minutes report that came out a couple months ago. But basically, the witness was basically told that we want your statement because there's going to be something on television. And from my understanding, that it was all about making sure that it wasn't tainted, the story, and they just want to get all their facts straight before it went out. But yeah, what do you want to say about that? About the 60 Minutes report and how the police knew it was going to happen before it actually aired, and also how the testimony is linked to that as well.
Yeah, if Brad wants to say something about that, about the show, is that what you're referring to, Matty?
Yeah, 60 Minutes.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat the question again there, please, Matty?
So, but basically, it was being admitted in the court case that one of the detectives, one of the informants, I assume, I'm pretty sure, I won't name him, basically was trying to get this particular witness to sign a statement before the 60 Minutes show became public. So he was well aware that there's going to be an expose, and he wanted to get his ducks in order, from my understanding, before that expose. And he had made just a comment about how it all links to testimony, the police awareness of the 60 Minutes, how they were liaising with the media, and how they wanted to get this whole thing in order before it came out, just to milk it for all it's worth, basically.
Yeah, well, that just shows clear collusion, doesn't it? And I mean, even after the 60 Minutes, we had police approaching some of our members. I won't say who or when or what they said, but basically they threatened that they knew about 60 Minutes and that there's potentially more episodes that could come out as well. So whether that's a threat or not, it just shows you more so that there's collusion between the police, 60 Minutes, Asia. They keep digging themselves a deeper and deeper hole. But we need to capitalize on this as best we can. We need to show this corruption and this injustice for what it is. Tom and Jacob are fucking, they're either in prison or in basically prison conditions, not able to see any of us. And we need to get this out there as best we can and show the public just what sort of justice system or injustice system we have. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just clear. It's clear now, guys, and hopefully we can get this out there. But I mean, it's just amazing that they're trying to get away with it as well. And it's not about right or wrong. It's about they're trying to silence Jacob and Tom, the leaders of the NS movement, basically in Australia at the moment. And it's just about keeping them down and keeping them silent. As long as they can.
But the funny thing with 60 Minutes too was, if you remember, they pinched Jacob the week before that aired. So the week that Jacob was out on bail all this time with no problems, and then the week before 60 Minutes aired, they arrested him and whacked on these massive bail restrictions that basically silenced him and disabled any opportunity he had to retort. So that was obviously part of the play too. So whether the changing of the statements had something to do with getting Jacob, charged at that time, but it was, it was funny that I think he was arrested, or was he kept overnight? But I think he was bailed on the Friday, and then 60 Minutes aired on Sunday night. So, it was, they had obviously pre-arranged that as well.
Yeah, it's a classic case of entrapment, man. It's like normal crimes, Jazz, like some of your criminal history. Like, was there any media attention prior to you doing something, and then there was ASIO? Oh, and I don't want to get in front of Mehdi because he's got a whole list. He's done some hard work putting all this out in document form, but I don't want to jump too far ahead. Yeah. But they swapped the informant out, Jared.
Yeah.
How many cases have you had where the informant just changes?
Yeah, that doesn't.
Investigation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very, very rare thing. Yeah. That's and with my cases, like I had things that should have got attention. Like, there's a lot of criminals out there that really should have attention. You're like, fuck, this dude's a bad guy. Like, watch out. But when it comes to like Tom, this is a complete beat up, and they're running it all over the place like he's a mass criminal.
Mm.
The fact that they mentioned his name along Tony Mockbell and Carl Williams. Carl Williams is a fucking mass murderer, and Tony Mockbell is one of the biggest drug dealers Australia's ever had. They were not good people, and then they tried to slide Tom. Just mentioning his name amongst them sort of creates that image for people like, oh, Tom's a fucking gangster. Like, Tom's not a gangster. Like, Tom is a fucking, he's an epitome of an area man. Like,
that's right.
No crimes being committed.
If Sewell was to be dropped in the 1940s, he would be normal, yeah? Like, he would no extreme, would just be, hey, bro, like...
Hey, he'd have a wife and 4 kids, and you'd never hear from him.
He wouldn't even be an activist, man. He would just be like a family man. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
But I just want to get to the prosecutor, man, because she was pretty funny and shit, man. Like, I just want to get into some, like, funny parts of the trial and shit.
We're almost I'm halfway there. We'll get to it, yeah.
In due time.
All right. Well, go ahead, Mehdi. Continue, mate. Apologies.
All good. We're on to the second witness now. This particular witness is the one from the persecuted religious background from the 40s or whatever. Anyway, this particular witness was shown a lot of photos, 60 to 84 photos to be almost exact. He was able to ID some of the people there, but the people that he was able to ID were not. There was a difference between people IDing the people from the car park where the incident happened, and also the people that he may have saw beforehand where they weren't wearing masks. So the people that he ID'd were not from the car park, but from beforehand. Moving on, in terms of his knowledge of politics, etc., because this is kind of relevant. Like I said before, this is the guy that the first witness went to confirm whether whether these men were neo-Nazis, and he said that he knew a lot about Nazis and had read the articles about the Grampians, etc. So he was aware of this sort of stuff, the hiking stuff, and that groups do this from the far right, so to speak. He did say he didn't feel threatened at the start or intimidated when he walked past them, but that obviously changed later on. 7. He mentioned that he couldn't put a number. So the Tom's lawyer for every witness pretty much tried to suss out from all witnesses whether they could put a number on the amount of men that had allegedly surrounded the car. So he couldn't put a number on it. And he also said that he didn't see anything else get hit apart from the boulder. So as I mentioned before, the car, I think, probably did a reverse or something and hit a boulder. And the lawyer with the first witness said that implied that he also hit something else. And he asked the same question to the second witness, and the witness couldn't confirm whether the car hits anything else. So he probably doesn't believe that it did. So yeah. All right.
Yeah, because that's the problem they're going to have. Yeah. I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm trying to get people to understand why what you're saying is important, because if they're claiming that Sewell had broken the glass window of the car, yeah, and I'll probably jump a little bit ahead just to give context, but they claim that Sewell smashed the window of the car. They got really scared. This is what their prosecution assert, and they said, "Oh, because they were filming, yeah. This is why the incident occurred allegedly." So Sewell's alleged to smash the window, and the person with the phone recording the group said, here, take my phone, and threw his phone out the window. And then the car, because they got hysterical, the car crashed into a boulder. They've got DNA, they say, of Sewell's blood on the car door where the broken window is. So they're going to have to prove that Sewell broke that window. Now, Sewell's blood being there doesn't prove that he broke the window. Just proves that his hand was there at a certain time. So that's why this is important.
Yeah, and the fact that none of the witnesses could identify Sewell or Jacob as being part of the car park group speaks for itself as well. And not one witness could verify that when shown the photo boards. All right, moving on to the third witness. This one's very.
Hold on, one sec. Just what Neil said. So this fella, he's just no one's asked for his phone. No one said give me your phone. According to him, he's just thrown it out the window and said take my phone. Did anyone even pick it up? Do they know?
There's no proof of anyone picking up the phone. The phones can't be found, or the phone. I think there was one or two that they threw out the window. But
there's no evidence. There's no evidence or accusation of anyone even touching the phone. It's just the phone being
found
thrown
with
out
the
the
phone.
car.
And no knives have been found. These so-called knives too. Yeah.
Well, we don't know what happened, but some of the witnesses have suggested that they were asked for their phones. I think one witness said that they gave it to them for free or something. I don't know, but just to be accurate.
It's frozen. We lost him. You there, Neil?
In Melbourne. Yeah, I'm here. I thought it was me. I was going to be worried then.
I can see Brad still blink and say he's sweet.
Yeah,
but basically, what he's trying to. You go, mate.
I was going to say I'm on my mobile data at the moment, so I don't know how much I have left. But yeah, I'll just stay on for as long as I can.
Nah, cheers for coming on, mate.
All good, thank you.
But it's really weird. Stefan's going through the motions of what was said, so it's probably going to be a little bit boring for some people out there. But it's very important because they're going to have to. It's one thing to say something looks like something, you know. It looks like Sewell did this, but you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, there could be a multiple different explanation as to why Tom's blood is on the car door. And Mehdi will get into it later. He'll probably get a bit angry at me for bringing it up. But the doctor was interviewed today under cross-examination, the one who assessed Sewell's hand. Now, I never actually seen Sewell's hand. I've seen it bandaged up. Never seen it. But the doctor said Sewell's lawyer is actually quite good too, by the way. He was asking all the right questions, and he didn't waste any time, like straight to the point. So he asked her, where was the cuts? Was there any cuts on his knuckle or hand or forearm? She said no, only on the inside of his hand.
Like he was holding on to something.
Like he was holding on to something. Maybe the car took off and Sewell, if he was there, as they allege, maybe grabbed onto the car door. Or was trying to help him. Like, hey, like who knows, man? You don't know.
Well, the car, if they hit a boulder, the window could have broken from that. And while he was trying to rescue him from the car crash, he's cut his hand open, opening the door. That's what I would assume if I heard the story.
Hey, Jared, have you ever put your fist through a car window? I'm just wondering. You could probably give us some insight.
Look, I've seen people do it, let's just say. But, you're not going to just cut your palm, are you? Like it's, it goes against physics, doesn't it? Not that I'm a scientist or anything, but if you're going to punch your hand through a car, you're going to cut more than the palm of your hand.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole case, like you guys know, you've lived it, yeah, with these coppers. So you know what they're like. A lot of people don't know how crazy these coppers are. And this cop, Michael Taylor, I think I can mention his name. He's the informant. He's one arrogant piece of shit. He's got rings on his hand. He thinks he's a gangster, mate. He's like this. Yeah.
He's part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks he is. There we go.
Sorry if I was like...
With this case, like there's the amount of evidence and all that, there is no way anybody else would still be in jail. This case should have been thrown out, before he was even arrested. The amount of evidence, there shouldn't have been a real investigation. The fact that he's still in jail on this amount of evidence shows, that he's there for alternative motives. It has nothing to do with the alleged crime at hand.
Well, Neil and Mehdi, can you tell us about them actually hiding the evidence or preventing the defense from gaining access to certain evidence? What's the deal with that?
We're about to get to that.
Awesome.
Yeah, soon. No worries. So moving on. Sorry about that. This particular witness also started Googling about neo-Nazis once he was in the car, just to confirm, I think. And he also felt panicky and terrified, direct quotes. He rejected the idea that they were hysterical, so he's using different terminology. Moving on. This is interesting because Tom's lawyer basically accused this particular witness of acting inappropriately in the sense that he had spoken to the witness who had been questioned the previous day. So for those who don't know, when you're a witness, you in order to be uncontaminated, and the whole idea of the fruit from the poison tree, which is a Bible verse, you can't contaminate yourself. You can't talk to the witness because the previous witnesses have been interviewed already by the lawyer, because that will basically mean that you're better prepared for the questioning. And basically, Tom's lawyer could kind of tell that this particular witness was, probably had been given the line of questioning beforehand. And he did admit that he had spoken to the witness, but he didn't really verify what the nature of that conversation was and whether that the previous witness had mentioned to him the line of questioning. So we can't confirm whether that happened or not. We'll never know. But we can say that the lawyer defending Tom definitely felt that way. And this is what he said before. In his statement, he mentioned that, I'm paraphrasing here, a hate group that hates gays and Jews just happens to attack gays and Jews. That was in the statement. So yeah.
Because when I first heard about the incident, I heard they were gay Jews, and I thought it was just like someone just joking and shit. But yeah,
no, the every single time mantra is pretty much the reality. It's not a myth. It is every single time. Yeah. It's always.
Yeah. So basically, going to Brad's question, every time the lawyers attempted to ask something which would uncover police corruption or improper, policing, it would just be thrown out. Like, and the lawyers were already told for 3 hours, like prior to us even being let in, that they were not to ask this. So they even brought it back, and just some questions. It always led back to, like, there is surveillance of the incident, I believe. Yeah. There's definitely surveillance of that day around the area, 100%, because they said that in court. And there's also audio surveillance, and we'll just get to. I don't want to go too far, but we can't go for like 3 hours, the way we are. But I'll just get to who was it? The officer who was there prior to the incident, because I swear that these coppers must have a machine like in Minority Report. They must know when a crime's about to happen, because there's hundreds of cops around in the area filming people and documenting what's going on. And one of the officers, this female senior detective, she filmed a group of people and they tried to ask questions about it, and she flobbed them off. Like, there's a lot of moving parts in this whole investigation that aren't being shown, and it's like, let's just focus on here. It's like you're in a lit room and you've only got a little pen torch and you're looking around, but there's a lot of shit going on, man, behind the scenes.
Yeah. Also, that part I mentioned before, that the gay Jews being in the statement, that was removed. And when he was asked why it was removed, he said he didn't want to speculate. And this is also very interesting. He said that we should definitely address. From my understanding, someone had contacted them to take pics and videos. So there was contact with the outside world, so to speak, either before, I'm assuming before the incident, to take photos and videos of the nationalists, of the EAM. Now, who those people were, we don't know. Probably Antifa or something like that. But it's been confirmed that people on the outside had messaged the people that were there, the affected parties, to take video footage of the EAM, and we'll take pictures of them as well.
Yeah, so that would lend more credence to our allegations that the left-wing activists are in contact with these so-called victims. So these aren't just random people being in a camping or bushwalking. They've got an actual intimate connection with these activists on Twitter for them to be told what to film, etc. But get into that. Let's get to this prosecutor, because she was getting hysterical. Speaking of hysterical, there was a lot of supporters for Tom in the courtroom. A lot of passionate supporters, and she didn't like this. Yeah, so Medi, I didn't witness it until just after, but some things happened that she was very upset about. So this magistrate, in all fairness, was pretty chill. He was like one of those old school magistrates, yeah. And so she kept bringing up, oh, we want to get rid of the supporters. We want to get rid of the supporters in Tom's case and just leave the journalists. And he goes, mate, it's an open court. You know, they're on video. They're not talking. They can do what they want if they want to watch. And he goes, I'd actually prefer it if they put their videos on. Because he goes, I don't want to see initials. I actually want to see people's faces. So if they want to put their videos on, put it on. So everyone put their videos on, yeah? And then an incident occurred. What occurred, Medi, during the trial? Someone made a visit into the trial.
Someone had a free Tom Sewell sticker on them, and they were doing sneaky salutes as well. And then some other guy, I think that these guys must have been from overseas. We did have some European and I think American viewers as well. So I'm pretty sure these guys were from overseas. They weren't Australians, but someone had a Nazi gorilla doing the salute. And then straight away, that was during the break when we were about to start again. And then I heard the prosecutor freaked out at that, and she basically asked them to be removed. And there was a topless. I didn't see that, but there was a topless woman as well who made an appearance. And then at the end today, there were some people doing the white power thing, and they got booted as well.
Yeah. So when this Nazi gorilla appeared, because I didn't see it, the missus was playing it on the TV in the other room. Yeah, because I'm on my phone, I can only see like 3 windows, and all of a sudden I hear in the background the audio of the admins going, "I think it's a gorilla." And it's doing a Nazi salute. And then I go, what the fuck? And then I realized what happened. I was laughing. And then the prosecutor, when we come back in, the magistrate's like, because she kept bitching about like people being in the gallery, and he was over at the magistrate by that point. And she goes, "Oh, I've got something to bring up, Your Honor." And he's like, "What is it?" She goes, and the way she described this man it's like a full nerd prosecutor trying to describe a meme, yeah. She's like, "Oh, there was like a gorilla in a picture of a gorilla, a video of a gorilla doing a Nazi salute, and there was a topless woman, and people were laughing." But yeah, anyway.
It's great that people done that. Next time they need to double the numbers. If there's 30 this time, there needs to be 60 next time. The government needs to see the support that Tom's getting. You know, show them that you're angry. Show them that you don't like this shit. So yeah, get on there and get numbers, get on there, get organised. Organise what you're doing, and show them you're not happy with what's happening.
I agree. Screw optics. And there was another guy on the chat who put his video. I had my video on, and another guy that I know had his video on. This particular bloke is a bodybuilder, so to speak. He's got a really big build, and
everyone knows who he is now, mate. He's been doxed enough in the last week. He's all over the joint, mate. He's in film clips. He's fucking in the Daily Mail. He's everywhere.
Yeah, why not say Jimmy Owen, so to speak. Anyway, the point is that the prosecutor was complaining that by putting your video on, especially when you're built up like you are, that's like going to intimidate the witnesses. So I just found it so fun seeing a gay person or a Jew talking, and then having some guy in the stream that was just like leaning in the camera with a fucking tank top and everything. I can just imagine. At the end of the day, it's funny and I'm all for it, but at the end of the day, it's totally legal. So the prosecutor tried to stop that from happening, but
this is how I don't want to disparage the witnesses, but let's just say they're all wearing their masks, like all of them. Even the magistrate said, "Take your mask off," and they refused to take it off. So, look, if you're willing to be a witness in the case, show your face. Like, this is Australia. We're not living in Africa where you can get lynched for doing something like that. This is a free country, as we're told. But it just shows you the caliber of these witnesses that they're going to cover their face and etc.
Speaking of caliber of the witnesses, this next witness is really interesting because she basically probably lied. I mean, based on what we found out, this particular witness was shown photos, just like all the other witnesses, and she ID'd Tom Sewell. She was shown pictures of Tom Sewell, and she ID'd Tom Sewell. That's what she's alleging. That's what she claims.
But just while you say that, the ironic thing about that is when Sewell's lawyer was questioning her, he said, when you did the photo lineup, did you point someone out? Who did you point out? And she said, I pointed out Tom Sewell. The lawyer said, how did you know his name? Because as you would know, Jared, like if you're a witness in a crime, they don't tell you the name of the perpetrator. How did you know his name? And she's like, I know his name because of the news and shit.
Yeah, the media. She mentioned the media articles, and she also mentioned that she walked past Tom on the trail, and that she felt, open quote, general sense of unease, close quote, and best get out of the area. Moving on. Having said that, just to make sure there's no confusion, she couldn't ID Tom during the car incident in the car park, so she must have been able to ID Tom beforehand. That's we're almost done because of witnesses.
Now get back to
her?
Stick back to the subject. So she ID'd Tom in the photo lineup. They cross-examined the new informant, the one who was replaced by another one. So we'll stick it together. So they cross-examined the officer or the informant and said the photo lineups. One witness said she claimed to see Sewell in a photo lineup. He said Sewell was never in a photo lineup at all.
Yeah.
She lied the day before that she didn't. Like, this questioning went on for ages. It wasn't like just I ID'd Tom. Like, this went on for ages. Yes, it was Tom, this and that. Yeah. He says Tom was never put in a photo lineup at all because of the media attention. They never did a photo lineup for Tom. Did you remember that?
I think it's fair to say that, I think it's fair to say she basically just made this up. But let's call for what it is. She just...
Or the officer is making it up. Or the officer is making it up.
Well, someone is, but I honestly think that she's making it up, to be honest. I don't think the officer is, but anyway. We'll touch on that a bit later, but there's more to it as well. But before we get to that, because we finished the witnesses, before we get to the police that were cross-examined, I want to mention, I think that there was I think a friend, in terms of, you mentioned this before, Neil, on the phone. Tom's palm was cut or injured. His knuckles.
We dealt with that when you went offline.
Okay, well,
I think we dealt with that. Yeah.
All right then, and also in terms of one of the, are we allowed to name the detectives involved or not?
Yeah, Mick Taylor.
No, I'll talk about Laura Fitzpatrick.
Are you going to start talking about when she said that?
Let's talk about the surveillance as well. Let's talk about surveillance. So basically, she's a sergeant, I think. She's a detective, I think, and she made a statement on June 18th, 2021. Her sergeant asked her to be present at the Cathedral Rangers. And when she was asked by Tom's lawyer what this operation was called, so she was obviously going to be undercover to take video footage of whatever she could, she wouldn't answer. So she wouldn't say operation whatever. And when she was asked why she couldn't give that answer, I think it was said that there was, what was that technical term, Neil, that they mentioned? I don't think it was relevant.
So basically, she was asked, why were you there before the incident? What was going on? And she said there's what was the word for, there was like a special police force.
Task force.
Task force.
Yeah.
And they asked her what was the name of it, and she refused to give the name. And they refused to under what is called public disclosure and anonymity. And that's what they decided in those 3 hours that no one was allowed in the court case. So because of that, what's his name? Jacob's lawyer, I forget his last name, he is now coining it the Operation or Task Force McQuinnan, because that's Sewell's lawyer who brought it all up, about this. So she is refusing, or she can't say what that task force is called. And I tell you what, I reckon the task force is called something like maybe a communist name in World War II, or Operation Get
Operation
Nazi,
Trotsky, or
something. I
And then-
swear, it has to be something like that. Why won't they just say the name of it?
Still be active. The operation would still be active. It would still be going into any NS right wing white fucking supremacist in Australia. They would be using the same operation, so they wouldn't want to spill what they're doing. Why they've still got agents sniffing around, trying to make.
Well, I have a suspicion, which I'll reveal
other people
now. It should be called Operation Dave Ryan, because I'm telling you, I reckon there's a reason, because they said something like it's going to come out later. We can talk about some of this later. I think there's more shit going on, and I think there's more charges coming. That's what I think. The way they're acting, like, we're not going to reveal it yet. Later we will. That's what they kind of said. Dave Ryan, his footage is being sent to the cops. Yeah? And I reckon footage that hasn't been put on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said before, they did threaten that with one of our previous members as well. They threatened that they had the ability to make sure that this member wasn't exposed in any potential future episodes.
So they're producers now of 60 Minutes. The police. Yeah. Okay.
They have a say at the very least.
Yeah. So this Laura Fitzpatrick, she was doing audio recording and video recording of the car park, taking registrations down, and she also viewed those later on. And when she was asked whether she was aware of other government agencies, probably AFP or ASIO, if they were operating in the area, she said that she wasn't aware that other organisations were there as well, investigating. She also mentioned that...
Just to speed you up a bit, Maddie, she did say they asked her, do you know of any officers who were involved with ASIO and the AFP?
I was about to say that.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Something that could be said in the sentence. It's a whole paragraph.
All good. Okay. So basically, she also said that whether she knew other officers in her department who were liaising with government agencies, and she said yes. She admitted that there was a connection between her department and other agencies, probably ASIO, etc.
But the defence team couldn't ask any further questions about that. Is that right?
No, that was more for the operation name. They could ask questions about that, but that was.
I think it was relevant because that was her job at the time, so it was kind of relevant, like her position. But what was interesting, which I think many might be getting into, is they asked her, "Do you know of anyone in this investigation who were connected with ASIO or the federal police?" And then she said, "Didn't she say yes? A senior detective was
senior sergeants."
Yeah. So then they asked the informant, who's the new informant of the case, have you consulted with ASIO or the AFP? Because he's relatively new to this case. He said, oh, no, I don't know anything. So what they've done is they've replaced the informant because the other informant is dirty. The other informant was the one who was talking to ASIO and the AFP. This is what I know. These tricks, what they do, man. That's what they do. And that's why she said, yes, some of them were like the detectives up high, but he's gone now.
Yeah.
And he's not in the court case. They wiggle out of it, man. They're shifty ass.
I won't comment on this too much. I'll just say as a statement, no need to comment about it. But there were other men who were spoken to, interviewed, but only Thomas and Jacob were charged.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on.
Altogether, there was 8. There was 6 men asked about it and 2 charged.
Yeah. This is interesting. Traffic management. So just to confirm, traffic management people are construct where they're just like managing traffic. Traffic management unit grabbed the registration of a certain trailer that had of a certain nature. They mentioned a blood and honour trailer. You might know more about this than I do. When I say traffic management, does that mean like the cops that just manage traffic, or actual traffic management people who are the cops who pretend to be just construct workers or something? Like, I didn't understand. Do you know more about
traffic management? Traffic management is just them motherfuckers with the sign, as far as I know. It's just
that's what I mean. But they were using these people to record registrations that were passing. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering, they must be either undercover cops or it's either traffic management cops who are actually just managing traffic, doing breath tests or something. So I don't know what it is, but I was wondering maybe if you guys have more insights about that, just from a surveillance point of view, just to suss that out.
I didn't even know they could scan plates. Bloody hell.
Yeah, the traffic manager might have the right to do it under some, road law. So they've just asked them to monitor the cars that come past. I don't think they would have known what they were monitoring for or anything like that, but they would have just been collecting information. So I don't think that would have been that. They would have put undercovers out there. They've already got a lot of manpower on this case. They've got people fucking everywhere. So.
Yeah.
There was also talk about them working with they're working with the Rangers.
Yes, they got a lot of documents from them as well. Yeah. Well, they wanted names. They wanted registered hikers. So they wanted a list of people that are registered with the council or something, or with that Rangers, who frequent the the Cathedral Ranges on a regular basis. Probably just to help with IDing potential area members and narrowing it down. Now, let's go on to the last person. There were two more witnesses, which I'm not going to mention because they're pretty much the same sort of thing. I'm not going to mention those two witnesses. But the last guy is really interesting, Michael Taylor, the new informant. So there was another guy before him. He's the current informant for this issue, for this case. He works for the Counter-Terrorism Security Investigation Unit. He made a statement on the 22nd of June and also on the 26th of June, I think. He made a third statement of photo boards. He denies that Sewell was on any photo boards, which contradicts what one of the witnesses said regarding her being able to identify Sewell from the photo board. So
the other thing is, Sewell's lawyer was complaining because that informant, he did his last statement on the 26th of this month, the day before court, and he had never received it. And there was 8,000 pages of documents sent to both lawyers, Jacob and Sewell's lawyers, like 2 days before the court hearing. So they've waited all this time to do disclosure, which every defense is rightfully allowed to have or should have. And they've waited to the end. They've just drip-feeded shit out and then just sent it to them the day before. And so the lawyers didn't have enough time. Well, I think they was pretty sufficient in what they did, but they didn't have enough time to actually assess what's going on. So the whole thing was a sham.
If they've dug up all this in 2 days, imagine 8,000 pages, and this is the flaws they've found in 2 days. Imagine what they can do with 2 weeks or 2 months.
Well, you got to remember, this is a committal hearing. There's less allowance for conversation and questioning. When it gets to the trial, where it's 2-3 weeks or 3 weeks to sit down for, they can do a lot more. It's just for this committal hearing, 3 days. They're only going to have 3 days, and this judge wanted to get out on Friday. So,
this is just to make sure that there is enough evidence to go to court. That's all this is, just to make sure that they're...
What I believe, you would have been under a committal hearing. You've been in the county court before, Jared?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe a committal hearing is because the magistrate's court can't impose a sentence over 2 years.
Yeah.
And the county court can impose 20-odd year sentences. And I think the Supreme Court's like 100 years or whatever it is. But a committal hearing, because it's of a serious nature, and it will need a jury and a judge to save resources, they go to a committal to see if they push it up for that reason, and also if they get more than 2 years. But I don't think Sewell, because he has no criminal record, even if he's found guilty on all these charges, I swear he'll get out the day he's convicted. He'll get time served. I don't think he will get... Well, you never know with this system, actually.
That's
the thing.
Yeah,
they're going to try with Tom to keep him as long as they can, obviously, because when Tom comes out, it's going to be like a fucking whirlwind.
If Tom was just a normal criminal, he'd be let out that day.
It would have been on bail another 10 times. I think they know this one's slipping through their fingers, hence all the desperation and the trying to bury information and the holding off to the last minute. They know that they haven't got a whole lot to rely on. So, from everything that's been presented, I don't think their case is going to stand. I just can't see how it does. If it does, obviously Tom will appeal it and take it up to a higher court. But I don't know what magistrate can put his name to a guilty conviction. We all know, in this country that the state picks the magistrate for these court cases. So, it's a very hard case to win. But when they have that much, that many holes in their story, and there's that much that many inconsistencies, it really gives Tom a good chance to have the whole thing dismissed.
I'm not a law expert, but if no one can ID Tom or Jacob at the scene of the alleged crime, I don't see how this can even stand. Like, if you can't ID, if the charge of armed robbery and assault or whatever, and you can't even ID that they were there, having DNA evidence is not enough. Like, you need to have footage, you need to have,
They wouldn't go through this for anybody else. This amount of evidence, they would not go through. This would be thrown out, 10 times out of 10 if this was anybody but Tom Sewell. The fact that he's a white nationalist in Australia is what he's guilty of. But, we've all seen, me and Neil, I know I can speak for in particular, we've seen people that have been bailed for offence after offence after offence, and then they go to jail and they're back out, and they're just always out of jail, and they're constantly fucking up, and this is absolute fucking. It's a travesty.
Yeah. I want the last page.
Hang on, I'll just let Brad have a chime in because his phone might turn off any minute. What do you say, Brad? What's your assessment of the whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say really, mate. I'm a bit tired at the moment, but yeah, I mean, like I said before, they're just trying to silence Tom, and I do really hope that he gets out soon. But I really think they'll just try to drag the feet as long as they can, because like Jazz said, there's so many holes in their case, and I think it's almost like setting a precedent, maybe not a legal precedent, but almost like a precedent for us, NS guys, is if they can get away with this with Tom and Jacob, what will they be able to get away in the future? So yeah, I think that's why we really have to try fight it as hard as we can on our side as well. That they say it's a criminal charge, armed robbery and whatnot, and all the other host of charges as well. But it's actually a political case. It's a political charge. I mean, we can just see the way the media is handling it. They're letting the media just run wild with it. All these antics in the courtroom and blah blah blah. It's a political case, and it's just Jewish tricks again. They're saying it's one thing, but it's actually in the inversion. It's the opposite. So, like I said, yes, it'd be interesting to see how this goes. I really hope Tom gets out soon, but yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. We can't trust the system whatsoever. We can't trust that they'll be fair.
That's the sad thing. If Sewell pleads guilty, he'll get out earlier.
Really?
If he fights it, well, his bail will be denied. If he fights it up to a higher court, the Supreme Court, for instance, in Victoria, he'll be in jail for 2-3 years. Unless he gets bail. But that's the problem. That's the catch-22. Like, that's why a lot of people plead guilty. And it's sad, that happens. But
with regards to Antifa, so the informant, Michael Taylor, was aware of Jacob being doxxed by Slack Bastard some years ago. And also he claimed, I think he didn't verify this, but he sort of suggested without verifying it that an analyst had he'd come across information regarding Tom Tanuki. I think a tweet or something that was given to him by an analyst, which came to his attention after the incident, where Tom Tanuki had apparently sent people to the Cathedral Ranges that day. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, I'm not going to comment, but according to the informant, he had received intelligence after the incident, to the forward screenshots, that Tom Tanuki, a well-known Antifa activist, had tried to mobilise people to attend the Cathedral Ranges that day. And that says a lot, if it's true. Is it true? Like, have you seen that screenshot? Is that what the screenshot was? It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's legitimate. It's legitimate.
Okay.
I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it when I got posted. I remember actually seeing people had shared Tom Tanuki's post saying "Get to the Cathedral Ranges now." So, and again, it's obvious where Tom Tanuki was getting his fucking information from. There's only one source that he could have got it from, which was obviously Dave Ryan. So.
Yeah. Also, the informant was not aware. So this is the new informant. Remember how the first informant, how I mentioned that he was trying to get the witness the first witness to sign the statement before the 60 Minutes expose. That was the old informant. The new informant, when questioned about the media coverage that was going to happen, that was pending, which hadn't been published yet, he denied that he was aware of the 60 Minutes doco, and that he had he didn't have any idea that it should be delayed until after the arrests. So when he was asked whether he was part of, he tried to delay the release of this expose until after the arrests were done. He denied all knowledge of that. So the first informant admitted it. The second informant had no idea, and that probably explains why they changed informants. And in terms of the that technical term that Neil mentioned before, public interest immunity claim, that's what it's called. So when they couldn't answer certain questions about the name of the operation, for example, and other questions, they use the term public interest immunity claim, but they don't have to answer certain questions. And they also
can the defense team still gain access to that information, but not, I don't know,
publicly?
Yeah, just not talk about it publicly.
No, I don't think so. I think you're wrong. Yeah, I think the defense were attempting to garner information from the witnesses concerning that, and they were denied outright. Like in the questioning, that would have been dealt with in the 3 hours before. Because it was similar to my case. Obviously, this is a lot more serious than my case. But in my case, I attempted, because there's a lot of LGBTI gay cops talking to the witnesses. I attempted to subpoena those cops because they're having conversations, they're meeting with them, etc. But that was irrelevant in my case. It's irrelevant to the incident. So it's irrelevant. Even though they could have groomed the witnesses into saying whatever, but it's the same set of circumstances. So they've basically said, if the defense could get it, that would be bad. Because the defense could release it and do whatever they want with it. So it's stopped. But when the trial happens, that's when shit should hit the fan, where things should come out. But
they also mentioned a second time they used the public interest immunity claim was when they asked him if he was aware of the undercover cop or journo, so to speak, called Davo in the group, and he didn't answer that, and someone else butted in and said that's public interest immunity claim. So that question of whether he was aware of the undercover cop also falls under that particular claim. And also, the informant had asked the witnesses whether they were members of Antifa, and they denied that. So this is just such bullshit, man. Given all the connections with Antifa, and they're just denying this, and then you've got people, certain witnesses claiming that they ID Tom Sewell, even though they were presented with those photos, and all the other inconsistencies mentioned before. This just reeks of just corruption, and just a lot of questions remain unanswered, and it'll be interesting what happens in the future. And speaking of the future, the last part of the notes is what's going to happen in the future. So, from my understanding, Sewell's got 15 charges. One of them was dropped. Quickly explain that. I think 2 of them were afraid charges. One of the afraid ones is if you don't wear a mask, and the other one is if you do wear a mask. And apparently, if you're engaging in a fray while wearing a mask, the penalty is a lot worse.
So it comes down to one's aggravated. So if you assault someone while they're on the ground, etc., it's still assault, even if you assault them. So you're going to choose one. So one was very, very more aggravated in a mask, and the other one wasn't. So they're just duplicate charges of a fray. A fray could be a serious charge too, by the way.
Yeah.
But just while we're closing up, Sewell has pleaded not guilty. Same with Jacob. The trial will start on the 29th of November this year for 2 to 3 weeks. I heard 2 weeks, but I got kicked out for doing the OK symbol. But someone said it's 3 weeks now. But anyway, before we leave, a lot of people are interested. How's Sewell going, Jared? Do you know how Sewell's going?
Yeah, he's going well, man. He's keeping his head up. He's finally out of isolation. He's finally getting some time out in the yards with the boys. He said he's met a lot of good people in there, and he's had a lot of people request to. A lot of Aussie fellas have requested to spend time with him. So his spirits are high. Book's going well. He's just trying to keep up with what he's doing. So yeah, that's anybody who's worried or concerned about Tom should rest easy. He's and of all the people I've met, he's very headstrong. He's a very headstrong individual, so this isn't going to slow him down at all. So I think he probably, you got to look at the good things in this. And like a break won't hurt Tom. I think he could have used with the break. He'll probably come out refreshed. So gives him time to reevaluate a few things, work on the book. I know he's wanted to work on that for a long time. So, now, like I said, now he's out. He was starting to get a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? He was doing his head in. He was in his cell by himself for 5 months. He had 2 visits with Brad, 2 Zooms with Brad, I believe it was, and that was the only contact with anybody outside of guards for 5 months, apart from a quick few phone calls with us. So he's finally seeing other people now, which will be a massive thing for his mental health. So yeah, he's going well. He's in the fight. He's ready for the long haul.
I think whatever happens, he'll come out a lot stronger than what he was before.
Yeah. Look, jail does a few things for people. You get all these people who come out of jail and they act like they're tougher because of it. I've never met anybody who's tougher for going to jail physically. If anything, it leaves you with a few scars that you have to deal with. You actually have to get over things, But it does teach you patience. That's one thing it teaches you. It teaches you a few things, and there's probably a few lessons Tom could learn. So, he'll make the best of his situation, and he'll definitely come out stronger. He'll come out smarter and wiser, that's for sure.
The 3 weeks I spent next to him, he wrote, I think it was like 200 pages. 3 weeks. How long's he been in here now? Like
sounds about right. Yeah.
Right, it'll be a Bible, man. It'll be like...
Yeah. He's probably written the book like 3 times over already, so it's only going to get better each time.
That's right. Yeah.
And I believe he can receive books now. I tried sending books about over a month back. They sent them back, but apparently if he requests a book, that he's allowed to receive it. So, yeah, if you guys have any books you want to send, if you want to message me or Jazz on Telegram, we'll just write it down on a list, send it to Tom so he can request it. Just a roundabout way. They're just fucking them around. But, I believe we're able to send books. I sent some today, and hopefully they'll get through to him.
And if anyone out there is like on the edge of writing him a letter, should I contact him? If you've never contacted him before and you just want to speak to him, you spend a lot of time in that cell. You know what I mean? And, he doesn't have access to people. Your head can play tricks on you. To know he has support means a lot. So anybody that can just let him know that means all the world in there. So you're guaranteed Tom's, not going to laugh at your letter or throw it in the bin. Anything he receives will be greatly appreciated at this moment. Any show of support he can get in any way will mean the world. So if you're on the edge about contacting him, do it. Reach out to him.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's a pretty shitty place in isolation, man. It's could you imagine? Like, it's hard for people to imagine, but imagine living in your bathroom. Yeah, because Sewell doesn't watch TV. So living in your bathroom, and the only contact you have to the outside world, because the guards are not fucking with you, not giving you a phone or etc., because they fuck with people all the time. So the only contact you have in the outside world is a little slot in the door of the bathroom, and it's 3 or 4 times a day where you get fed or they put the food in. You go, oh, thank you, and they slam the door in your face. Like, that ruins your whole fucking day, man. So Mate, 3 weeks really drove me fucking mental, and he's been in there 6 months.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it definitely changes people. Yeah, my poor brother, he done 18 months in solitary. Nada done 18 months in solitary confinement. He was never the same again. I love him, but he's never the same again after that. Yeah, it's good that finally let him out. It's massive.
All right, yeah. Thanks for everyone that come on tonight. It was a bit of a kind of a messy stream at the start, but thanks, Stefan, for doing all the notes.
No worries.
He's the Rudolph Hess of Tom Sewell.
Intellectual.
And thanks, Jared, and especially Brad for jumping on, mate. I didn't expect to see Brad on here tonight, so thanks for coming.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Neil.
All right, boys. All right, thanks to the viewers too. Catch us.
God bless.
Take it easy, fellas. See you later.
See you later. Catch us.